Hello, I'm Mrs. Proctor, and I've been tasked with explaining what sociology is and why we should study it. So, effectively, why should you study sociology? Because you want a better world. Because you want to see what is happening and you want to make improvements to it. That's why. And what is it? It's 3 questions. It's looking at what is happening, why it's happening, and what can be done about it. That's sociology in 3 sentences. If you want to know more, please do email me, cproctor@chs-tcat.org. So let's explain that a little bit now and see if we can make sense of these 3 questions. So with sociology, we look at what is happening. We look at trends, patterns, statistics, research carried out to find out what is going on in the world around us. Because only then can we understand why it is happening, what makes people behave the way they do, and what makes society the way it is today. And when we know why it's happening, we can start looking at what can be done about it. It is sociology and sociological research that fuels the legal system and the political system. Politicians use sociological research to inform the policies that they want to introduce. They in turn then create the laws that solicitors will start to use and apply. It is sociology that funds and fuels all of that. So let's look through this in a little bit of an example. If we wanted to look at, for example, what is happening in terms of inequality and poverty in the UK, we have to go a little bit deeper than the tabloid newspapers perhaps, or the media in general, that would have us pinpoint and scapegoat certain groups of people as the reason poverty exists. They'd have us believe that poverty, for example, exists amongst those people who don't work. But actually, looking a bit closer, a lot of people working are still living in poverty. It's not something to be brushed under the carpet as something that exists for just lazy people who can't be bothered to work. Not true in the slightest. In fact, when we look a little bit closer at who it is that feels the need to use food banks to supplement their income so that they can actually feed themselves and survive, you're more likely to use a food bank if you are a single man. That's typically who we imagine to also be working. We have this image in our head, for example, of single mums with children as the ones who are struggling. But these are men, single men, unable to perhaps find work, or perhaps if they have found work, unable to use that work to sustain them enough. But they don't need to go up into food banks to survive. That's worrying. We shouldn't have a situation in our society where people are struggling to feed themselves. And so do we need to know what is happening, why it's happening, and what can be done about it. And we start to connect the dots in sociology. We'll look at different areas. We look at the education system, we look at social inequality, we look at our healthcare system, we look at crime, and we look at deviance. And we put all these pieces together to try and find a big picture of what's happening and what can be done about it. So let's go back to education, shall we? Poverty may be the result of being unable to find work that can sustain you. And perhaps we need to look a bit closer at education, what's going on there. When we look at education, there are horrendous patterns and statistics that no one should be accepting. What this graph shows us is not only are you more likely to do well at education if you are from a family who isn't on free school meals and has more money than others, you also are more likely to do well if you are a girl. This should not be the case. It's quite frankly disgraceful. Though, of course, and we must be clear on this, being a boy does not mean you won't do well. Being somebody who's on free school meals doesn't mean you won't do well at all. That's not the case. But what the graphs and the statistics and the patterns and the trends show us is that you have it harder if you are a boy and if you're on free school meals, because you are less likely, according to statistics, to do well at education. And that should not be the case. We want a system where everybody has equal opportunities. Again, let's look at the role of the media in showing us what we think things are looking like, but then we look closer at what's actually happening. According to the media, crime, disgraceful, call in the army, we must fix this now. There's a young man on the front cover here smirking at soft justice Britain. Notice they've chosen a young man and he is also black. Statistically, violent crime is actually going down. And what if I was to tell you statistically that you're most likely to be a victim of crime, a victim of violent crime, if you are young, male and black? When's the last time you saw that person on the front of a newspaper as a victim? Only ever as the perpetrator. The statistics, the research, the patterns, the trends, this is what we base our understanding on. It's on hard, solid research. We challenge the research, we question the research, and we find out why it's happening. We look at different theories, such as Marxism, functionalism, New Right, and feminism, and we'll start looking at why society is the way it is. And then we'll look at what can be done about it. And we'll look at what they have actually tried to do. What have they put in place to improve things? For years, they've been trying to improve education so it's equal opportunities for every single person. They're struggling though. Despite the policies put in, you are far more likely to do well in education, not only if you come from one of the wealthier families in the UK, but look what happens if you're a child with special educational needs. There are students and whole groups of students who are being let down by our education system. And we need to know why. What is happening? What can we do about it? Because absolutely no child in the UK should have their life made harder. What they should have is equal opportunities. Why is it that despite us trying all we can to provide that for students, are we still seeing these patterns? What is going on? Before we go any further, let's be very clear with sociology. We don't think these patterns are natural, and we have evidence to show that. Boys are not naturally stupid. That's not why they're not doing well at GCSE. Why? How do we know that? Apart from anything else, 50 years ago, it was boys that were achieving well. If it was naturally that boys were just not very clever, then they would always be the ones who were underachieving. The fact that it's changed depending on the time in history, the culture or the place, shows us these are things that society, we create. These are not natural tendencies that we just go, just the way it is. A sociologist never says it's just the way it is. Why? What can we do about it? What is happening? Why is it happening? And what can we do about it? That's what a sociologist says. They probe and they question and they challenge. They analyse, they evaluate. We look at all different perspectives. We weigh up and analyse. We are not biased or judgmental. We are rational. And why? Because we want to see the world be a better place. It is sociology that politicians will use to inform their policies. If a politician wants to change the world, they will go to social research to figure out what policies should be in place. And when those policies are in place, the laws that are made are on the back of sociological research. Law and politics is grounded in sociology. And it's grounded in these three questions. What is happening? Why is it happening? And what can be done about it? So finally, why should you study sociology? Because you want the world to be a better place. And you want to look around and make a difference. And you want to find out how. And you want to make sure that what the world we live in and the world that we are going into now is as fair and equal for every person. So again, if you would like any more information, do feel free to email me. My name is Mrs. Proctor, and it's cproctor@chs.tcat- follow the school email addresses. And you can email me anytime and I can discuss this further with you. And I look forward to answering all your questions.